doesn't it make more economic sense to have a lower benchmark than a higher benchmark? At least when it comes to profits, especially if the prices of oil increase over time. A lower benchmark would mean more revenue, wouldn't it?
Well, Charles, let me put this to you. I mean, like you said elementarily, why not? The lower benchmark is good enough. Okay, that means, for example, that why don't we go and put the benchmark at $50 to a barrel? Why don't we go and do so? I mean, if, for example, the executive comes to the budget that puts benchmark at $75 and National Assembly increases it by $2, $3, $4, $5, it will still be a lower benchmark compared to the present value or market price of oil.
Well,
so it is not really whether it is lower, whether it is higher. What is important is that what is the National Assembly using the excess revenue as a result of increase in benchmark to achieve? In a country, for example, with huge infrastructural decay, I'll give you an example. I come from Cross River. The Calabar, Ikom, Ogoja, Katsina Road, for example, has been under construction since 1999. Given how much money is being allocated, it will take the next 20 years before we can complete that. Right? And then we're making savings. And then the present Nigerians and present citizens of this country are suffering untold hardship with the bad roads and bad infrastructure. So when you talk about lower benchmark, are you saying, for example, that today's developmental challenges of Nigeria shouldn't be attended to because we want a lower benchmark and because we want to do savings? Nobody's against savings. They don't save at the cost of present day Nigeria that is yearning for development, as yearning for infrastructural development and progress.
Honorable Eno, at this point I'd like to ask again. You said initially that before now the legislature had been very supportive of the executive, which maybe was good or probably not good enough for Nigeria's democracy. But then recently the reverse appears to be the case. The National Assembly and the executive have been at loggerheads about almost everything in recent weeks. Well, would I call that democracy in action, or is that not rather detrimental to our democracy? When two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers.
I don't think, Charles, I don't think it's actually a fight as you are putting it.
Well, it's a figure of speech, Honorable.
Whatever different thinking that the legislature has is construed to be a fight against the executive. And we are running a democracy that has three arms of government. And I believe, for example, that there's no one arm that has a monopoly of knowledge in terms of the best way to move this country forward.
But when the disagreements become so consistent,
what it challenges us is to get together and look for the best way that this country's interests can be, taken care of.
Yes, but I'm talking about very consistent disagreements in recent times, as if there actually is a grouse somewhere that we don't seem to see.
Well, when you talk about consistent disagreements, I can't, maybe if you are specific, maybe if you are definite, what are these disagreements? Is it about benchmark? We don't even have the report of MTEV yet before us. We haven't even debated it. So I don't see how whatever newspaper report about what the thinking of the House of Reps is has suddenly become a matter that has become disagreement. I don't really see it as such.
Well, actually, I would have gone further to give us specifics, but that actually would be splitting hairs. But I would like to thank you so very much, Honorable John Eno, the House of Representatives Committee Chairman on Appropriation. You've shed so much light on these issues here. We ought to have had an economist here with us in the studio to take you on, but unfortunately he has not been able to make it, and maybe when he does, then we'll still revisit you in arrears. But thank you so much for now, Honorable John Eno, Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation.
I'll be available and ready to interact with him.
All right, well, that was the Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, John Eno. And, he did shed light on a number of economic issues as far as the budget is concerned and the relationship between the presidency and the executive. Well, then, let's quickly return to Independence Day. But before we do that, I've been joined very, very long ago in the studio by someone else who has actually been waiting very, very, very patiently. And I would like to offer my apologies to the eminent lawyer, Barrister Chuks Nwachukwu. Thanks so much for joining us on Politics Today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. It's a pleasure having you on board. And, we had a little bit of crossing of wires here, and that's why I decided to just let you cool it off a bit, because under normal circumstances, we ought to have had an economist who would have taken on John Eno. I don't think that economics is your strongest forte, so we have your own plate prepared for you, and your own co-discussant in Abuja, I believe, is also waiting. But then, for now, let's go back to Independence Day. Shortly after, well, let's just say on that day, the high point of the day was the president's broadcast, and lasting just a couple of minutes, over a quarter of an hour, it packed enough to generate enough controversy for 15 months. Now, President Goodluck Jonathan's speech essentially covered the transformation agenda, the performance of the economy with a focus on investment, job and wealth creation, and the petroleum industry, that as well as power supply, security and corruption. Well, today we'll be hearing from both critics and friends of the president's pronouncements. And joining us from our Abuja studio is also a commentator on public affairs, Mr. Tunji Awunusi. Is he there now? Well, he'll be joining us, but we'll find out shortly which way the pendulum will be swinging. But for now, let's take a listen to the report on the President's Independence Day broadcast.
Our vision is encapsulated in the transformation agenda. We are working hard and making progress on many fronts. We have cleaned up our electoral process. Our elections are now globally acclaimed to be free and fair. Nigeria is now on a higher pedestal regarding elections. Over the past 5 years, the global economy has been going through a weak and uncertain recovery. During the same period, and particularly in the last 2 years, the Nigerian economy has done appreciably well despite the global financial crisis. Nigeria has become the preferred destination for investment in Africa. It is ranked first in the top 5 host economies for foreign direct investment in Africa, accounting for over 20% of total FDI flows into the continent. Our security agencies are constantly being strengthened and repositioned for greater efficiency. Many Nigerians have acknowledged that there has been a significant decline in the spirit of security breaches. While expressing our condolences to the affected families, let me reiterate the commitment of this administration to ensure the safety of lives and property of all Nigerians. Even as we remain focused on the issue of security, the fight against the scourge of corruption is a top priority of our administration. We are fighting corruption in all facets of our economy, and we are succeeding. We have put an end to several decades of endemic corruption associated with fertilizer and tractor procurement and distribution. We have exposed decades of scam in the management of pensions and fuel subsidies, and ensured that the culprits have been brought to book. In its latest report, Transparency International noted that Nigeria is the second most improved country in the efforts to curb corruption.